going to talk about three things. I'm going to talk about affirmative action, then poverty versus class, and then equality. And after that, I'm going to kind of look at the ground and tell you where you're going to be voting or help you decide where to vote. But first of all, I think the debate really comes down to one single thing today. It comes down to one question. And that is, has affirmative action really done its job? And they seem to tell you that affirmative action has done its job. However, I don't think that affirmative action has done its job. I think it's helped, but I don't think it's finished yet. And you don't have to take my word for it. You can take the word of statistics. If you look in our brilliant opposition debate case laid out, their first point was talking about diversity is desirable, but the second and third points are what are crucial. The second point says, studies show salary level of minorities are lower than white people with the exact same jobs. To me, that right there tells me that affirmative action is not done because it's not equal. And they made a clever statement. She stood up and flustered the guy. She tried to tell him, isn't this about colleges? Shouldn't we be talking about colleges, not about not about jobs? No, this is totally part of the debate. This is exactly what we should be debating, whether or not affirmative action has worked or not. This single study right there completely cripples their entire case. Okay, so affirmative action clearly has not done its job. It's not over. I have a few things to say. If I have time, I'll get to you. Thank you very much. So then my second thing would be moving on to poverty versus class. And now, they were trying to be tricky in their opening Gov speech, and I mean, I respect that. That's cool. But unfortunately, I do know the rules of debate. So they're trying to advocate for something outside of the scope of the resolution. They're telling you that they should, I don't even know what do you guys know what their model is? It's really ambiguity. There's a lot of ambiguity surrounding it, but essentially what I get from it is they're trying to say that colleges, instead of focusing on the racial aspect of it, should focus on the class aspect of it. That is outside the scope of the resolution. That is ground that the neg should be using. We could come up with a counter model that says that we should focus on class, not on racial, not on race. So there's no ground there. That is outside the scope of the resolution. Second of all, on the poverty versus class issue, I think we've kind of demonstrated that poverty versus class, maybe it's not poverty versus class, maybe there's some correlation here, If you look at studies, the study 2, again, a lot of people, a lot of minorities are in the lower class, but this really is not an issue because they can't go outside the scope of the resolution and try to argue that class should be something that's considered in a college application, because that's what we could be arguing as a NIC. Okay, so moving on to the question of equality. And like I said, I think it really comes this debate comes down to the question of whether or not you as a judge believes that affirmative action has done its job and everything is just perfect and everyone is equal in America. All races are absolutely equal. And we don't think that's the case. And the studies actually back up that that is not the case. Studies show, I'll read this quote again, because studies show that the salary level of minorities that have the exact same job as white people get paid less. That's not equality. That is not equal. Affirmative action has more work to be done. And so then I ask you to deepen your view of equality, because they tell you that they should focus if everything was equal, then I think it would be okay to focus just on academic scores and just on equality that way. But if the foundation isn't equal, then how could we even begin to focus on the equality of the test scores and the grades? Because those can't be equal if the foundation is not equal. And the foundation is not equal. Yes.
But if you aren't specifying which racial group you're a part of, then that doesn't make it necessarily, with the equality, I don't understand what you're saying about that.
That's great that you don't want to specify racial, that has nothing to do with this debate. It doesn't link into anything that I'm saying. It still comes down to whether or not affirmative action has done its job or whether it doesn't. Your plan can only do one thing. It has to hold up the resolution, which essentially says that, I'm not going to have time anymore for questions, so you can stay seated, thank you. Which essentially says, I lost the resolution here, but you guys know what the resolution says. And so I think another huge point, our opposition, I think, did a really good job. I think all you really have to do in this debate is look at studies number 2 and 3, which went totally irrefuted, except for that question that trim off a little bit. And then this point right here on the third, 10% drop in Black and Hispanic enrollment in college if their plan is passed. If their plan is passed, there's going to be a 10% drop in Black and Hispanic enrollment in colleges. That is not good. That is not increasing equality, which is one of their points. So we'll turn their equality point. There's no reason why you would vote for the model in this scenario. And the only defense that they put on this was they say that, quote unquote, we can't control this. That we can't control a 10% drop in Black and Hispanic enrollment. Well, I'm here to tell you today that we can control that. And the only way we can control that would be if you pass the plan. That's the only way that's going to happen. If you pass the plan, there will be a 10% drop in Black and Hispanic people in college. And we also think that that is going to increase the level of that is going to increase the level of inequality. How is making it harder for minorities going to increase equality in our country? So, okay, let's look at the debate round and see where I think this should be voted. They tell you that there is a rising socioeconomic divide, and their plan increases this socioeconomic divide because they're going to be making it harder for minorities and people that don't have much money to have a chance to excel, to go to college and make a life for themselves. They are getting rid of this opportunity for people. And we argue that any time that happens, that is bad. So, I mean, really it's going to come down today, Your Honor, whether you think that affirmative action has served its purpose or whether it hasn't. And not only do I firmly believe that it hasn't, but the studies and the evidence and the statistics show that we still have a little bit of way to go. Thank you so much.